Hello to all my friends out there. Hi, you guys. Well, I'm in the McDonald's parking lot. I'm hanging out. I didn't know this, and I don't know if this is everywhere in the USA, but here at this McDonald's in the parking lot, your phone will pick up the 5G. I mean, Wi-Fi and the 5G. So, if you don't have Wi-Fi, but you have a McDonald's, chances are you can pick up the Wi-Fi. So that was just a heads up for you guys. I didn't know that. So I'm going to be getting some more prints of the baby. And so I was thinking about this. The life coaches said, if you want to if you're cooped up in your house and, you're entrapped with the restrictions, listen to music from when you were younger and you'll get into a really good mood. And it's really, really true. My phone's not charged right today. And so what I did is I just tried to do a whole reset to when I was younger, and it was putting me in a good mood. Of course, when I was younger, I was married to my ex-husband. I wouldn't want to go back there, but I could go back to the good times, okay? So I've been doing crafts. Let me show you. Okay, so here's the first one. I made this is a little dishcloth, and I haven't made one for a long time. And so I single crocheted rows of 30. Then I made a border, but I think it would be nice if it was a little bigger. So next time I will do a row of 40. So I bought this cotton yarn at the Dollar Tree for $1. It's right across the street there. So if you have everything you need, this is when it gets to the point where you can get by very cheap. So if you have food, water, and shelter, basically you have everything you need. It doesn't have to be the greatest food. I brought my bread along, and we'll get into why. There might be some birds around here. I might give them some. Food, water, and shelter. So if you don't have that much money, go to the food pantries or the food banks. Here in El Cajon, California, they have tons of them. They also have meals in the park. They also have meals at the Salvation Army for like $3. I don't know how that's working with the you-know-what. So what we want to do is we want to preserve our standard of living. We don't want to give up any ground, and I think I'm getting somewhere on this. So you need food, water, and shelter, and then you need energy. This is to really survive, so you need your utilities. And then you need education. That's why in days gone past, there was this big push towards education, but now we can listen. What I've been doing, thanks to the life coaches, is they said if you listen to 30 books a day, 30 books, if you read them or if you listen to them, then that's like a master's degree in your subject. So I was listening to Max Spears last night. I watched, when I was, redirecting my stuff with the move, and I watched 2 of his videos, and he died. If some of you don't know Max Spears, he was a psychic of sorts. A lot of people, me included, think he was murdered because he died very young, and it was after drinking some kind of a potion of some sort in a foreign country. So I also love to listen to James Casbolt. Not that I agree with everything they say, but they have an interesting perspective on things. And anyway, he was in it was European country, and he fell and he died unexpectedly. So anyway, it was nice to see that videos have come back resurfaced. At least my phone fed them. So if you listen to 30 subjects, I was listening to all kinds of things, plus all kinds of really good music, and it was putting me in a really good mood. So I thought, well, okay, I'm doing this reset, and what about the hippie years? So, okay, the hippie years, a lot of people think the hippie years were brought on by the Vietnam War, and I think that was true to a certain extent. I wasn't a hardcore hippie type person. It was really my ex-husband, who was 5 years older than me and who had been to Vietnam. And a lot of the hippies lived in communes, but the interesting aspect is that this really originated in San Francisco, a lot of it. And that was one of the big resentments of Charles Manson, is he had brought this hippie stuff, you know, the music. He was quite the musician, actually. And his stuff had been ripped off, basically, and he had been tossed out. But, you know, they were doing drugs, and then the drugs eventually erode the mind, and then, you know, the person, you know, suffers all kinds of hardship. That's what happened. Charles Manson was a killer, but, you know, if you want to think about a hippie, another thing that the hippie movement that I'm not into is it ushered in drug use. A lot of people think it came in from that the military came back addicted, but I think there was a push towards drugs, and this hippie movement did fuel it. And there are people today that are still addicted to marijuana. When I first started the self-help group, it was mostly alcohol, and then as years gone by, there's a lot of very serious drug abuse. And if you trace it back, a lot of it goes back to this hippie movement, and coincidentally started in San Francisco. And what was in around San Francisco is Berkeley, with these free-thinking, educated people. And so we're going to get into that in a minute too. So I thought, well, let me look up, you know, this hippie movement thing, and see if, you know, what I was doing here in Southern California was similar. And actually it really was. And so what the hippies did is they rejected the mainstream status quo. They said, well, we don't want to like this. We don't want this. We don't want this 9-to-5 job working thing. My ex-husband and I, though, did work a lot. But we lived that simple life, and I think it's going to be good for now. And they rejected the government control. After all, the government had taken us over to fight the Vietnam War, and it was an unpopular war. And when people came back, the general public wasn't exactly gracious to the veterans. So what we did at my house is we didn't talk about it and we didn't think about it. And I thought that was a pretty good, and that worked for years. And so we went on having a pretty good life, but it's always there, you know. So another aspect of the hippies is the communal living. They live like in communes. Now, we didn't do that, but we did have this pretty large set of friends, and those friends stayed with my ex-husband till his dying day. And coincidentally, one of the friends did die of Agent Orange. And so it was eating organic food, which I think is a good idea, and this will fit good into what I want to do. What I want to do, and it appears that they want us to do this too, is eat more vegetables. So I would have like a half a plate of salad or 2 kinds of vegetables, a quarter plate of like a carb, and a quarter. I'm not giving up my meat. I generally buy hamburger, chicken, and bacon, but I'm going to add those I'm going to add hamburger, chicken, thin cut pork chops, because those thin cut pork chops, you can make yourself 2 pork chop sandwiches and get by. Today with my bread, I'm going to look for some good cheese and some, it's coming back to me, you know, as I'm resetting, some good nuts. Before I was just buying some kind of like cheap nuts, but I'm going to try to find some better nuts and some peanut butter, some good peanut butter. So today I'll probably make a batch of potato salad. So I have my meat, my potato salad, and my salad. And so the hippies were generally vegetarians, most likely because, you know, they were living off the land. Actually, it was living in poverty, kind of. The certain ones, we weren't. We were working. That helps. This is the disturbing thing about this virus thing, you know, not being able to work. Yesterday, my phone contacted me. Amber alert, go home, the COVID is spreading. And my son just happened to be returning his phones, and all 3 phones were pinging off, you know, with this Amber alert. And I walked past the paper and it said, preparing vaccinations. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So we had, let's see, organic food, whole grain breads. I'm going to be baking my bread as soon as I eat all this delicious Walmart bread. Vegetarian diets, casual clothes. For years, I wore moccasins with jeans and some kind of loose-fitting t-shirt, and I was very happy. I'm going back to that. They did yoga. Okay, now, what they did also is they rejected materialism and government repression, or repression of any sort. So they had communal living, cooperative living, unprocessed food, holistic medicine, and then we get on to this, Eastern religions and astrology. So you remember John Lennon, Imagine, the song, that all went in with kind of like, these people marketed this hippie movement and made tons of money, and the people ate it up. So this hippie movement came out of San Francisco, and so does this tech movement. So we had the hippies, and then we had the 80s. So the hippies brought in somewhat harmless drugs. The 80s brought in cocaine, which was a huge money-making market. And now we have the tech movement, you can call it that. We had the Industrial Revolution, now we have the technological revolution, and a lot of people think it's wholly evil. Well, it's just like all the other, like the advent of industrialization and now this tech. It will be replaced with something else as soon as we innovate it. And they have made tons of money off the tech. And the people do change slightly. And then with the hippie movement also, so what evil has been brought in by the technological movement? So we had rather harmless drugs like pot. Well, it wasn't entirely harmless. It killed Janis Joplin. There were some hardcore drugs. And then at 80s brought in the cocaine. And now what has this brought in? Well, it's brought in more pornography, especially child porn. Trafficking is easier to access with these trafficking and prostitution, and all kinds of child, you know, bad stuff. So, you know, it has ushered in some bad stuff too. So then, you know, so, okay, so one of the things that they had was folk music as well as hippie type music. And also there was a lot of biker stuff back then too. And I've heard that the biker paraphernalia right now, you know, all the motorcycles, people have more money and stuff, is doing very well right now. Now it's kind of like the hippie stuff too. But a lot of that, behind that, was some very well-off people who were selling drugs. So what I'm going to be pursuing in my senior reset is gardening, crafts, potting. You know, they would do pots, like various, you know, make, you know, like clay pots. No, I'm buying mine at the thrift store. I have bought some really nice Mexican pottery, but if you guys can find Indian pottery in a thrift store, it's very valuable, a lot of it. Macrame and gardening. So far I can't do any gardening because I'm too busy inside of the house. So I think this is going to work out good for me. So, okay, so now what we want to try to do, if we can, is move into some kind of merchandising. So all you have to do is choose a product. So what I chose is resale, buying stuff at a thrift store, and then it could be, though, online, it could be some kind of coffee mugs. I think hippie type paraphernalia like t-shirts and stuff would do very well. Or coffee mugs, anything. Is I used to know people who ordered things direct themselves from China. I was watching videos on Halston, very interesting guy. He came out of the 80s. He should be up there with all the designers. And there was an interesting part in it. This was when I was watching the videos. There was an interesting part in when he went to China. And most likely, you know, the underlying idea was to mass manufacture these clothes. And so I think, you know, after watching this video a couple times, I think what happened to a lot of these people is they just did such a massive amount of work, it was impossible to survive. A lot of people blamed it on the drugs. I'm not sure about that. But anyway, if you get a chance to watch some of those videos, they're super fascinating. And then this goes back to the hippie thing, barter. So barter, you want to figure out what you want to get to barter and then who you want to barter with. And you usually, you know, work within groups. So I'm going to be doing some of that. So that is my, that is what I'm doing today. Life is good. What we want to do is no backpedaling. All the years, I think a lot of people were baffled how I did as well as I did. All the years, I stayed pretty much to the way my grandmother did things, and she was a Mormon, and they lived a pretty simple life, and they didn't get sick, and they didn't suffer that much. I'm still shocked my uncle was stricken with the COVID. It is not good. It's really kind of sickening, you know? So, I stayed to her ways, which was a very simple life, you know, and then, you know, I stay very close to the way my ex-husband and I did things, and it's been very successful. So now, you guys, if you're older, I'm trying to appeal to seniors. Okay, you senior ladies, we all relate to each other, actually. We're going to do the reset. It's healthier for your brain, I'll tell you that. I was thinking about listening to today when I'm, you know, doing my work, listening to some folk music. I love that. Okay, you guys, please like, comment, and subscribe, and God bless you all.